full bull. All right, guys, welcome to the Full Bull Podcast. We're your hosts, Jeff, Michael, Henry. I'm Justin. This is the second episode, and we have a lot of great content to get to you. I cannot wait to share it all with you guys. We had a whole crazy bunch of shit happen over the past week, and hopefully at the end of this podcast, we can all make a little bit better sense of what happened. Well, I'm glad you're here today. I'm going to go ahead and give you a quick rundown of the Fireside chat that we had with King Eric Holman in front of BTIG. We're gonna take a crack at some questions submitted to you guys on our subreddit. We got Tech Tonk with Vitronk, Henry's House of Gains, the Jefford Effect. We're gonna talk about tobacco and so much more. You will not want to miss a second. So sit back, relax. We're gonna get right into the absolute craziness that this was this week. Jeff, what the fuck happened this week?
I know a lot of us thought that we'd see 17 by the end of the week, but it had different plans for us.
I gotta say, it was
the market
not that
just turned
stressful.
red.
Yeah, it went red, but it wasn't that stressful like how every other red event has been. I guess it was. I found a different zen. I can't explain it all the way, but everything was fine, even though it was red. You know.
I made basically no moves all week. I just held bingo.
Yeah, and I mean it's been kind of up and down, and I'm just so confident in BNGO when it dips and has these crappy weeks. It doesn't faze me anymore. I don't care because I know in the long run we're going to be pretty comfy.
I will say that we kind of touched on it last week a little bit. The short squeeze maybe that happened this week with a huge number of puts expiring outside the money on Friday.
What was reassuring for me was that last Friday, the previous Friday, I mean, we entered into that Friday at 11:50, give or take, right? And then after hours, man, it just took off. But the fact of the matter was that we ended up last week up to 11, and then this past Friday we ended up at 13. I mean, that we're up $2 over the previous week. So it's just a consistency that every week it's up $2 almost regardless. So it's nice to see a nice pop.
I wanted 17.
I wanted 17. I wanted to see 20.
Why isn't the stock
20 would have been awesome. And then Bingo can do his thing and pull back.
Yeah.
It's growing very healthily.
Yeah,
It's
that's
organic,
what it
right.
is.
We don't want to see it go too fast.
Right.
Organic is what we want to see. That's right. Yeah.
Totally
I mean
organic.
the little bit of
no hormones, no additives.
The last thing I want to say about this is so last week I had a fun play where I threw all of my margin into bingo first thing on Monday morning, and or Tuesday because we had a holiday on Monday, and it spiked up to like what was it, 1560, something around there, and I sold to cover half my margin at 1525 or something. Remember, I had that bear moment, and you were like, hold, and I was like, all right, and I sold half, and so I covered half of my margin, and then I went to margin call on Wednesday, and then it was down, and so it kept creeping up, and so then I sold another quarter at like 1420, and then it went down again, and so I ended up with I think 190 more shares than I had before my margin play. So if anybody is doing, I know.
That's a win, bro.
Yeah, it was total win.
That
Total
is.
win. Yeah.
Man, just add more shares.
That's right. So that's the new strat is to just YOLO my margin at bingo first thing, and then as soon as it spikes. So what I'm going to do is just set like a 35%, so something around like a 200 share, 150 share gain. As soon as that happens, have it just like yeet my margin shares back, and then buy real shares with the gains the next day at whatever the low is, and be done with it. So like I'm going to try that for 3 weeks and see how that rolls.
I love that play.
Right on.
It's a good play. Solid.
Did you want to do a little sum up of the Fireside chat we had last week?
Yeah, I would love to. This was super exciting, guys. In front of BTIG, which is a huge institutional investment research firm that specializes particularly in the medical field, in the medical technology field. Eric Holman, our king and CEO, had a fireside chat with one of their analysts, and let me tell you, he hit it out of the park. This was
It
an
was just
opportunity.
fuego.
This was an opportunity
so smooth.
for BioNano to just be front and center for 35 minutes in front of serious institutional level investors and venture capitalists. And man, he killed it. So just, I mean, getting into it right off the bat, in his opening remarks, a couple things jumped out to me. He was given the opportunity to just kind of, tell us about BioNano. Tell us about, more specifically, optical genome mapping, okay? What Eric had to say about optical genome mapping is that he felt, and I think this is something that we've talked about in the past, so I don't want to say he said anything super surprising. I don't want to lead that on. What he did do was sell what we know to be true about BioNano's tech and the potential market for this technology going forward. He sold it so well, okay? And put it maybe in some ways that we hadn't necessarily thought of before. So OGM, optical genome mapping, has the potential for being the next big wave in the medical field. In his first question, Eric was asked about, and this was kind of exciting. The analyst asked some really great questions. They were straight questions. You could tell that the people watching this did not have time to bullshit. They wanted to know the real, give us the hard information, right? Okay. So first question out the gate. How does optical genome mapping fit into the marketplace? Because that's what we all want to know, right? How is this? And I think we talked a little bit about this last week. How is optical genome mapping going to gain market share going forward, right? How is this technology going to find not find a niche, but replace already existing technologies when it comes to genomics testing, right? So in this explanation, Eric gave a pretty good rundown of just kind of what optical genome mapping does and why he thinks that it's really well positioned going forward to be the next huge area of discovery when it comes to genomics and large SV detection in particular, those types of things. So,
and the best thing about that when it's going through the Sapphire is that it's going to be more cost efficient, right? I mean, faster results. So, I mean, it's a win-win for everybody. I mean, insurance company's going to love them, absolutely. We're going to be able to do it faster, quicker than anybody else, more cost efficient. The clients are going to love us. Instead of waiting, a week for results, we can, maybe might even be 2 to 3 weeks with something like, old cytogenic, equipment.
100%. Yeah, and I'll tell you too. With my background working in special education, particularly with autism, early intervention is the key. Like that is the whole thing. The earlier you can start, the better the outcome is going to be for the kid.
Well, then you'll know specifically what they have. So,
yeah.
I mean, you can see, if there was a chromosome that was, I don't know all the tech words like you guys do, but something was transposed or inverted or deleted or somehow it had mutated.
He said, "I don't know any of the tech words."
I don't.
Just throw them down.
I'm just saying. I'm staying with the Sapphire. I mean, with the circus plot, you can see where the issues are. That circus plot is amazing. The results. Dude. I mean, it's clear as day. You'll see exactly. Yes. If you have a missing, area or something's got transposed or whatever or inverted, you're gonna know almost immediately from BioNano. The Sapphire system.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that kind of
And speaking about doing 96 a week, I mean, I don't know if this is a segue or not, or if this is planned, but I know that we wanted to touch on it a little bit. That BioNano's office up in La Jolla, they now have a huge warehouse of space available to them, which is adjacent to their location. So I think, I mean, rumor has it, I don't want to start the rumors but it looks like they're going to be doing clinical testing there. I mean, right? Is that what they're going to do? It sounds like they're going to set up shop.
They might be carrying, because they bought Lineagen, right? Which they have they do the process of scanning the genome. So maybe that's something where they're going to be expanding into that warehouse so that they can do in-house work, like with a machine. They'll be a service provider.
See, that's what I was thinking.
Exactly. It gives them an opportunity to be a service provider, to develop a laboratory test, right? Which all they have in order for a laboratory developed test to be used on a more clinical basis, the threshold as far as the FDA is concerned is much lower. As a matter of fact, like they're already doing it. There are already laboratories in Europe and America that are developing tests using Sapphire that are being used on a clinical level. So I think that is for sure part of the Lineagen and part of the new building thing. I think they are just going to need warehouse space to hold all these fucking machines,
totally agree.
bro.
The building still has the old pharmaceutical or whatever pharma copy or pharma business up on the wall up there. Bio something it was called, but
yeah.
Shout out Laserbeam.
Yeah, Laserbeam. Good call. But if you were to
he's a G.
If you were to look at it on Google Maps, so that building is tremendous. It's absolutely huge. From the front view, the side view. I mean, the width of the building is pretty big, as well as the length of the building. So they've got a huge piece of property there. They really do.
Some laboratories, warehouse space.
Yeah, multi-stories.
Yeah, huge. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So a couple things that really jumped out. It was a great opportunity for Eric to give us a rundown of kind of what optical genome mapping does, and then also really make the case for why optical genome mapping and sequencing moving forward together are going to give researchers and scientists and clinicians the most full and complete picture of the human genome, right? A couple examples that he gave really quick, and he talked about some of our friends that we'll get into here, but he chose his words very carefully, and I'm kind of a stickler for that kind of thing.
I did like that. I liked that a lot. I felt like he really thought about it a lot. Yeah.
One example that really stood out to me off the rip, he said, all sequencing is complementary to optical genome mapping. Not that OGM is complementary to sequencing, but it's the other way around.
That's right.
I wholeheartedly agree with that, because you have to see the big picture to be able to dial in to what you want to look at.
Right. So current sequencing destroys the molecule that's trying to be read. Optical genome mapping provides a fuller picture of an entire genome that can reveal large structural variations that are missed by sequencing. Many of those, just like the ones that Jeff talked about just a minute ago. So he in the first little bit of the talk, he also brought up our good friends over at Pacific Biosciences. Again, Eric Holman choosing his words extremely carefully. What does he say? And I quote, "PacBio reads are not clinically relevant," end quote. Not clinically relevant.
That's a bold statement.
Very bold statement.
Their lengths prevent them from being relevant. Their accuracy or lack of accuracy.
Their accuracy.
Their accuracy prevents them from being clinically relevant at this time. And it is expensive as shit.
And it takes forever for results.
And it takes forever. Meanwhile, optical genome mapping already is proving to be clinically relevant in numerous medical fields. And Eric listed out some of them. Obviously, cancer research, autism research. The fields are just huge and huge. And I suspect that as scientists adopt this technology more, we're going to be finding that large structural variations are more important than we've thought previously. They play a larger role in gene expression than previously thought by scientists. So that was pretty exciting. The next question that the researcher asked is, so we've talked about structural variations. How much of the important stuff is in the large SV game, right? So how much of the stuff that scientists will be looking for is actually in the large structural variations that Sapphire is going to be able to detect, right? And again, we call him the king for a reason because he's a fucking king. All right. Man. So our King Eric said that structural variation analysis is already the standard of care for many patients who are presenting with a potential genetic abnormality. Let's say, for example, okay, you're sick. Something's going on. You go to the doctor. What are they going to do? They're going to look at your symptoms, right? What symptoms are you presenting to them? Then they're going to reference those symptoms against the entirety of medical knowledge, right? And say, okay, wow, well, these symptoms really match up with this potential disease, right? Oh, this is a potential genetic disease. Currently, the cytogenomics field needs 5 tools to do a complete SV workup. Okay.
So that's the standard that they're using now, the process?
Right. Because if I'm a doctor and you're presenting, something that maybe, let's say like a leukemia, okay, which is a form of cancer that scientists know is a result of a large structural variation, okay? Certain types of leukemia. So the first thing they're going to do if they suspect that is have a complete structural variation workup done, which involves going through 5 different tools. Sapphire makes optical genome mapping workups looking for large SVs as fast and cost-effective as Sanger sequencing did to traditional sequencing types. Sanger sequencing is the Illumina sequencing that is the standard sequencing, like the largest sequencing market share, right? That scientists go to. Previously, it was a much more difficult task. Sanger sequencing came out, revolutionized the sequencing field, okay? So we are already using optical imaging in the form of CMA and FISH and karyotyping, right, to do these large structural variation detections. What Sapphire is poised to do right now is take those 5 tools that scientists need to get a complete picture of the genome and limit it to, or bring it down to one fast, easy, cost-effective workflow. So the other big thing is that let's not forget that cancer is a disease of structural variation, and Eric hammered that pretty hard.
Also, a little later, we're going to talk about reductive points in science and tech, and this is a good example of that, right? So when we think of reductivism, we can think of these 5 original texts that we have to use all being brought down into one where the same result comes out of it, if not a better result, hopefully, but for cheaper and these kinds of things. That's kind of what a reductive viewpoint on technology would be.
Absolutely. The last thing that we really got on the on the Fireside chat, was talking about the potential market size, or TAM, of optical genome mapping. And what Eric really hammered home was that he sees OGM having a 1-to-1 ratio with sequencers that are already out on the market, and that the TAM could be 10,000 Sapphire systems in 2021. This year, 10,000 Sapphire systems in 2021.
Large. Imagine even if one machine only does one genome a week, or if you do the math, it's a rather large number, 10,000
right.
units.
So that is just looking at the discovery and research field. That doesn't even begin to dive into clinical applications, where I think we might see this going, into hospitals and maybe doctors' offices and shit like that.
And we just had the the largest hospital in Canada.
Yeah, in Toronto.
Bring on bio.
Okay, so if those 10,000 units or platforms, machines, Sapphire units, if they only do one genome a year, there's 10,000 of them. That's at 500 per. That's $5 million alone if each just does one genome. If they charge it at 500,
right, and that's assuming that they're all just leased. Some of these facilities are going to buy them right out,
own the machine rather than paying 500 or 96 times 500 every week if they're doing the full. If they have it at full full tilt.
And there's minimums on the lease too, isn't there?
Probably. I'm sure they have something in the contract that they have to use it a certain amount. They can't just install it, put it there, and it just sits there and collect dust, because Bionano's going to be losing money on that. So there's going to be some kind of stipulation where they have a minimum order, or they have to pay a minimum per year, that regardless of the usage. I mean, I don't see them ever just sitting there not being used, because that's a huge investment, and they have it because they're already in the business of doing that. They're doing the tests, and I foresee one being in every major hospital across the world eventually, because when you go down for your blood work or whatever, they'll say, "Oh, we're going to have you get you scanned through the Sapphire unit too to see if there's any future problems that you're going to have with your health."
It only makes sense. And that was the other thing that Eric was really hammering home, I think, was that Sapphire doesn't need FDA approval in order to get a large piece of the market. Laboratory developed testing is a way for patients to get access to Sapphire via a laboratory with the Sapphire machines. We're talking about the 10,000, one of those. These labs are going to develop tests. There are already, right now, and Eric talked about this a little bit, there are laboratory developed tests that have been approved already by third-party payers, insurance companies. So if we can tap into that market, the insurance company market, right? Like that level of acceptance in the medical field, that's when we'll know that it's time. It's nesting doll yacht rich time. You know, what I mean?
BNGO
Like,
has
that's when
the
we'll really be.
I think it's called the
Yachts on
Sapphire
Yachts.
Assure
Yachts
program.
on Yachts.
I don't know if that's a subscription base or if that's included with the unit, but it's basically a diagnostic tool, I think, that monitors the machine. And I don't know if it's a cloud-based system that it uses. I mean, I imagine that Sapphire Assure is cloud-based, but I don't know if it's required to have the unit in your laboratory, or if it's an extra that you pay per month kind of subscription system. I'm not sure, but that's something I'm going to look into for you guys.
Yeah, I know they have 3 different streams of revenue.
Okay, are we ready to move on to the next segment, boys? That's the Fireside chat summary? Excellent, thank you, Justin.
Yeah, that's what I got. That's what I got for the Fireside chat, guys.
It was so cool. I loved watching it.
I never saw it.
For all of you,
I never saw it.
You should
missed
definitely
out.
watch it.
Eric looked awesome, man. He was dressed like a true Californian. He was dressed to a T.
Killing it.
He made me feel great because last episode I had said the last that I had seen of him, he was very charismatic, but also like calm and cool. And he kind of brought what I expected, which I thought was really cool. But also, like, for everybody who's not in the Discord, Justin does a screen share for all the good stuff that happens BioNano throughout the day. And it was super cool that we all got to watch it together and have a voice chat while it was going. It was really fun. And shout out to the newest mod of the Discord, Dutch Trader. She got to get in on that as well.
Just want to thank all the mods that we have on the subreddit, because they do an excellent job keeping the riffraff out of there.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I mean, we try to do as much as we can as mods, but we actually have a lot going on. We've kind of turned this into a little gig on our this little side gig, and it's pretty cool. I like it. You're going to do question and answer. Yeah. Speaking of the Bionanians, the BNGO-Lorians, we had a post on the subreddit that we were looking for questions that we could answer. So here's the first one. And Mike, MJ, I think you're going to do this.
Yes, sir.
Section. I'll ask the question. What are BNGO plans other than Sapphire? And can you explain more about the nanopore patent? So
absolutely. So as always, shout out to Vitronk. So it probably seems like we do a lot of work for this podcast, and I assure you that we all do a lot of work for this podcast. But a lot of that work is just taking the genius of Vitronk and turning it into words that we understand.
That you can all understand.
And so, it's nice being able to outsource some of that info. And so I just want to say ahead of time, as an academic, if I had written this as a paper, at the very bottom, he would be my only source. So a lot of people have already talked about BNGO plans other than Sapphire in different YouTube videos. I have noticed in the last week or two maybe that the amount of BNGO traffic on YouTube has been like exponential, just like people I've never heard of, just like BNGO, which I always love. But we also talked about it as well in episode 1. But the thing about plans other than Sapphire is that they might not, or it might not be safe to bet on them as immediate catalysts, right? It might not be the kind of thing we want to think of as what will be turning the corner for us. And so the one thing that he did want us to talk about, though, is that there's a patent that allows BioNano to hook up its nanochannels to another detector. For instance, in this case, a nanopore sequencer. And we talked about that in Tech Talk with Vitronk last episode. And so the drawbacks...
Check it out if you missed it.
Yeah, definitely check it out. That was a fun one. The drawbacks are that it's really hard to build a sequencer that uses the DNA that is coming out of something like OGM, because you have to go through a PCR. So you have to kind of break it up. And so if there was a nanopore sequencer, they would have to first build it, and then they'd have to make it work, do all the debug, and then fight patent disputes about who actually came up with the ideas, who actually brought it together. or develop some sort of extensive collaboration with a sequencing company, since BioNano is doing mapping. However, the side catalyst, which we'll talk about in a bit, I don't want to really get into it, is a possible, working together with somebody like Illumina to make something like that happen. But this patent, this non-sapphire patent, is like a nano nozzle patent. And so it really makes BNGO a really desirable target for acquisition or merger. But the thing is that we've had so much success with Sapphire and with everything going on that there's no real reason to assume that they would get acquired or go through a merger, because they're on the verge of like such success as far as everything else goes.
Pure tinfoil hat, but I would be willing to bet they've already been approached.
Oh, for sure.
I'm thinking the same thing.
And they were like,
I said that like day or on the second week. I thought that that one weekend, I bet you they've been approached and they've already turned down some offers, and then they soon later did the offering. And but I'm sure they've been approached by many parties. Well, I mean,
it's like approaching like the Bulls and trying to acquire them on Michael Jordan's first year. It's like, we'll wait this one out and see how it goes. Like the sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think too. Like looking when anytime somebody's like, well, what's next for BioNano? My immediate reaction is
grow the business,
acceptance of Sapphire.
Yeah,
like we're there.
Yeah.
Like we're not at a next thing because we haven't finished with the first yet.
Right. We need to get into everybody's buildings first. Get rid of the old, legacy cytogenetic tools, and replace, all that older stuff with something that's going to work these days. So.
That's going to work. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing that is that's really cool is that Sapphire works, right? So it's so interesting to see a company that's got a product that works, and it works well almost all the time. I say almost because I don't like throwing alls around as a logician, but everything is really like laser focused on getting Sapphire to clinics, right? So Queen Alka is going to be doing that. Papa Eric's already out here giving amazing talks. The PRs, as usual, just crushing. The price targets are doing just fine on Henry's average. What is it, $2 a week since the beginning of January?
Exactly $2 a week since the beginning of January.
Even if it looks like it spikes, like you can just draw this straight line at the end of every week that just looks beautiful. And so the hyper focus on getting Sapphire to the clinic with Alka doing the FDA work and all of the good PR, there's just no reason to think that the right question is what's next. Like Justin was saying, it seems like the right question is what's the timeline on now as opposed to what's coming next, right? But I think that's generally a problem with investors that don't do a lot of DD, which is, I guess, the reason why we're doing this in the first place, is to give people confidence in the big hold, right? Diamond hands all day.
Nah, seriously, right. Diamond hands. You got to hold on to this. Yeah. This is not something that you want to day trade on a regular. I mean, you could. I mean, it does actually have pretty good, pullbacks. But in my situation, what I'm thinking is, I'm holding on to this. I got a price target. Several. When it hits 20, I'm just going to reassess. Personally, I'm looking at 51 as my price target. But end of year, definitely 100. So end of this year, we're looking at 100. And I'm not an advisor of finances, so. You guys got that?
We do like the stock.
We do like the stock.
Joke.
We like the stock. We like the stock. Oh shit! Big Henry emoji. Bam!
I
Just
concur.
Throw the Henry emoji up there. So the thing that's important, though, I guess, about this question and why we thought it was a good Q&A question in the first place, or why Vit did, is because he wanted to make a point that, ultimately it's easier to replace existing clinical technologies, right? So when you're reductive minded, you see we have these 5 systems and they all do different things, and we want all the things they do to have one product. So if they can all have one product, we might as well try to figure out a way to be able to do them all with one product. And so that's what Sapphire's doing. And so,
and if you look on like things like on Craigslist and OfferUp, you can see PacBio equipment on sale right now. So they're clearing out their labs with all this valuable space. They're just clearing out this huge technical equipment. I mean, we're talking about computers from the 60s taking up a huge warehouse, right? So you take out this stuff, throw it on OfferUp, throw it on LetGo, and next you got plenty of room for a Sapphire in your clinic, right? Simple.
Well, I don't think people realize how expensive laboratory space is. Like, even at, state universities, just in like printing labs, to get the right printer that does the right thing just to make posters for like grad students' projects is like ridiculous. Like, it's stupid. And so, like, I can't, we could probably go and find out exactly how much each of these lab spaces is, but like those PacBios and those Illuminas are big.
It's
like
the size of a car.
Cute,
That thing's the size of a car. They're huge. Insane.
The new warehouse, the new BNGO warehouse was, I think it's $46,000 to $47,000 a month. That's the lease price.
That's how much Henry's making by being a stock owner.
Yeah. Every 4 days.
Hey, I can't complain, man. Hey, I YOLO'd, man. Beginning of January. I mean, Diamond Hands all in.
Get your money, man.
Ultimately, like practically speaking, the nano nozzle or any new tech really is going to be a ways off. But what's important for BNGO is that in their R&D section, as you guys will see in the amazing GIF that's coming up this week or next week, is we have the intellectual property, right? So the R&D department on BNGO is looking where you're looking. It's just whether or not it comes to fruition, is another thing. And then quickly, I think Henry's supposed to cover his ears for this question, but Spare Game asked if we could talk a little bit about bear cases. And so we can really talk about that in one real statement. The bear case is plain and simple. They just don't get clinical adoption. There's already all kinds of awesome improvements. There's already all kinds of awesome improvements coming. There's already all kinds of FDA approval for all kinds of devices coming down the chain, but certification for clinical applications is a really long process. And so the genomics field is kind of moving faster than the patents can keep up and faster than applications can keep up. But the silver lining to the bear cases is that BNGO seems to be moving just at the right speed. They've already gotten approval for FSHD, and if the dominoes fall in place for AML, CML, these kinds of things, it'll start knocking over. And the other small bear case is that the advancements that could be made for long reads. This is something that people that like to kiss the feet of PacBio like to say is that long read sequencing is going to make optical genetic mapping obsolete over time. But the problem with that is that they aren't looking at the exponential growth in technology that we tend to see when technology grows. So if they're hoping that somebody catches up to somebody that's just starting,
BNGO's foot is already in the door. Their technology is going to advance at the same rate.
That's right. And so if we were to map what PacBio would have to do to catch up and then map that same exponential map over time, right? Because BNGO is in the not the baby stage, obviously, but like in the earlier stage with so much development coming ahead, and PacBio is kind of at the end of that. So the exponential growth rates don't map on top of each other. One starts down here, one starts over here, and then it kind of grows away from it. And so we'll see that it would be like trying to catch Usain Bolt when he had just had a break. Like he's just catching his stride right now. And so I think that's like we're supposed to be talking about bear cases, and so of course the bear case is that PacBio somebody cracks some wild code and figures out the way to bring all these different fish and karyotype and everything together, and then makes long reads that happen really fast and everything's great. But if that's the kind of technology that we're looking at, ultimately, we can't predict the future.
But BNGO is already there, so that's
right.
Kind of pointless bear case if you're trying to say that they're going to break into a technology that's going to be able to put it all together. And I mean, the whole bottom line is you want to do it faster, more efficient. We want to get your results to be able to see where all the issues lie. And with BNGO, you're already there. So,
That's right.
I'm taking that bear case and throwing it out the window.
And so, Vit did make a note here at the bottom where he wanted to say about exponential technology growth and these kinds of things is if the only tool you have in your toolbox is a hammer, all your problems look like nails. And,
I love that analogy.
Right, yeah, that's kind of what PacBio and these bear cases are doing is like we know we need to hit the nail, we just need to hit it harder. And really, it's better to make a nail gun if all we're trying to do is hit nails and get it really precise and get it smooth. But not only that, you want a nail gun that also pulls nails out without doing extra damage, and you want a nail gun that doesn't need to be serviced all the time, and these kinds of things. And so I think that's really the way to think about all the bear cases for BNGO because of how the growth we've seen, the success we've seen, the amount of PR we've seen, the kinds of PR we've seen. As far as Henry's PT goes, if Illumina's at 500 now and BNGO is better at it, right? That just seems obvious to me. But I mean, we all know how things are. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, so that's it for the two questions. Just want to shout out the questions the first one was from Hospital Ecstatic, and the second question was from Spare Game. So I want to thank you guys for those excellent questions.
Yeah, we'll be sure to put another post up this week. So if you got questions, give them to us. We love reaching out to people and trying to get answers for you guys.
So now it is time for Tech Talk with Vidtronk.
Tech Talk with Vidtronk.
Tech Talk with Vidtronk.
Tech Talk with Vidtronk. So that's you and me, Justin. We're going to do our little. This is again, obviously, additional help from Vidtronk, and we're going to kind of go through this.
Put on my thinking hat here.
Tech Talk with Vidtronk. So, Justin, all right, so let's talk some fundamental differences between Illumina, PacBio, and BioNano. Each has its own strengths and weaknesses, right? So when do you want to use this this technology over this other technology? Well, first, BioNano isn't DNA sequencing. It doesn't read the DNA. The Sapphire platform is able to show us the overall structure of the DNA that is extremely cost-effective, long, in a high-coverage way. So we got to remember that DNA strands are ultra long; they're super, super long. Lots of cheap molecules covering the same position of the genome give you an idea of what's going on there, even if the event you're looking for is rare. Okay, so let's compare what Illumina sequencing does. Why can't it also handle ultra long DNA? Typically, DNA will be sheared or cut and often PCR amplified prior to sequencing. So what does that mean exactly? I'm going to read that again because it says, he wrote, let's compare to what Illumina sequencing does. Why can't it also handle ultra-long DNA? Typically, DNA will be sheared and often PCR amplified prior to sequencing. So what does that mean exactly? Justin, can you answer that in a way that someone like me, would understand?
Oh, all right. I'm going to give this a try here, boys. Buckle up. We're in for a little bit of a ride here, okay? I'm going to paint you a picture.
Thank you.
All right? Imagine, if you will, that Illumina is a photocopy machine. And we work in an office. You, Jeff, decide one day that you don't like your boss anymore, and you're going to send him a picture of your butt.
Okay. Sounds like something I would do.
Best way to do that you can think of is to hop your little happy ass up on that copy machine and start making copies. Okay. So you do that. Mm-hmm. Illumina's like photocopying your butt 1,000 times, but not just like one big picture of your butt. Imagine like you've magnified in different pieces of your butt and taken a picture, and then scooted your little butt over a little bit more and took another picture, and then scooted a little bit more and took another picture, okay? So you've got like 10,000 different copies of your butt. Not one of them is actually a picture of your butt. It's 10,000 different segments of your butt, right?
Gotcha.
Well, yes. All right. So now you want to take those and fax them. You got to fax them. In this analogy, faxing is PCR. You're going to fax them to your boss, okay? So now your boss is not probably going to like this. He's got about 10,000 different photocopies that have been faxed to him, all which appear to be pimples and dimples and cellulite of someone's butt. Lots of ass here. And he really has no idea who did it, right? Because how are you going to figure out who just faxed 10,000 photocopies of someone's ass? How are you going to know when all the pictures... Exactly. Mm-hmm. That cute little Tweety Bird tattoo that you got, Jeff, is just little tiny segments of it, faxed one sheet at a time, okay? So all of that makes your boss real fucking pissed. He's got no idea who did it. And now he's in his, imagine like Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Your boss is now Charlie Day in his office with all of these pictures pasted up all over the walls. And he's desperately trying to piece together who sent him all these asshole pictures.
So that's Illumina, right? That's Illumina gel. So...
yeah,
that's Illumina's ass. Now let's look at PacBio. How do they do this?
Yeah, that's Illumina.
How are they going to solve the ass detective problem?
Be ready. Get ready for this shit. Okay, so PacBio works on a similar process. Okay, but instead of like magnifying each little tiny piece of your butt like by 1,000, it's like only by 100.
Bigger picture.
So,
cool.
There's a little bit more of your ass showing. So maybe they might actually be able to piece together that you have that bird tattoo on your ass. Okay.
Assing.
Maybe. They're at least going to know that there's something yellow there. Okay. So in the PacBio case, your boss is bougie as fuck. He has bought literally the most expensive copy / fax / Wi-Fi enabled Bluetooth machine possible. It's expensive as shit. Every time you take a copy of your ass, it's costing a lot of money, okay? But at the end of the day, he's still trying to just piece together pieces of someone's ass, never having seen the actual ass. Here's the biggest thing, though, that PacBio struggles with, and that when it kind of gets relevant in like a clinical setting, okay? We're not always just trying to look for one ass. So it's not just you photocopying your little segments of your ass and then faxing them over to your boss. Now it's everybody in the office is trying to do it, okay? Your boss is running around with a million different pictures of people's assholes trying to play Ace Ventura asshole detective, piecing these pictures together, okay? He won't really be able to tell how many asses he's looking at. He's got no idea how many asses he's holding, okay? In the science world, this is called tissue heterogeneity.
That's an easy word.
Or something similar
Nailed
to that.
it.
Heterogeneity.
Tissue heterogeneity. This kind of issue causes huge problems in genome assembly. It's simultaneously one of the great unsolved bioinformatic problems, but also lies at the crux of some fascinating biology, which hopefully we'll be able to cover in a future podcast.
So the genome assembly for the structural variation detection is inherently a reductive process, as we discussed. How do we get around it? How do we get around that?
Yeah, well, really, what we want to do, what scientists really want, is they want to be able to just use a single molecule, right? We don't want to be able to chop things up, okay? Single molecule approaches using extraordinarily long reads, or in this case, genome maps, right? That's because that's what Sapphire does, is it creates a map. So instead of photocopying your ass in this vivid analogy that we've painted here, instead of photocopying your ass and then sending it to your boss via fax, why not just walk into his office, kick down the door, jump up on his desk, drop trow, and show him your ass. Turn around. Say, hey, Derek, I fucking hate my job. I'm not coming back. I made a shitload of money on the stock market. Fuck you. Here's my asshole. And drop a big old shit on his desk.
That's one way to do it, I guess.
Listen, at least this way, okay? You can show him as much of your ass as you want. All right. And if there are a bunch of your coworkers that are feeling inspired, they can show them their ass too. And he can know that not only did Justin show his ass, but Jeff showed his ass and Michael showed his ass and Henry. We can take ownership of our asses in
and our asses
beautiful.
Our asses aren't destroyed by this process either. we can use the materials after and do further tests, can't
we? Yes, our asses can be used.
We don't want
again.
anyone's ass getting wrecked. Oh man. Okay.
That's 100% true.
So we kind of have like a vague that analogy works quite well to explain it.
No, because we need to know about Henry's House of Games.
Henry's House of
Games.
There is no House of Games. You guys are funny.
You've got the House of Games, man.
House of Games. So, yeah, the only thing, I was curious because, I was very fortunate by YOLOing. I got a ton of gains right now, and I'm thinking, do I want to cash that out or what? So, this kind of like segues into what I want to do, in the future. So, I've got my notes. It's pretty simple. If you hold on to it long term, which is, roughly a year or more, you're not going to get taxed as much. So if your gains are 40,000 or less being single, that's 0%. So that's nice if you're like, a little day trader and you got a little bit of money. You just wait a whole year and you have a 0% interest rate if you're single.
If you're filing single, okay.
Let me just say that this is an extraordinary paywall. Like there are so many paywalls in the stock market. Like if somebody makes a reasonable amount of money, like say they make $19,000 a year and they save super hard and they flip that into $100,000 and they have to use some of that in order to live harder, they get penalized for having to use it. That's fucking insane to me. All right, that's it.
With that being said, if you're filing single and you make over 40,000, between 40,000 to 441,000 is a 15% rate. All right. So this is long term, which is over a year. If you're filing single, if you're between 40,000 and 441,000, you're paying only 15%, which to me is amazing because I'll get into a short term capital gains, which is horrendous. All right. So if you're still filing single and you make 441,000 or more, so let's say, hey, you got your first $1 million year, if you hold it for a whole year, you're only going to get $20% rate.
Brutal.
So being single, that's what.
Better than the alternative.
Hey, no, but that's so. Let me just skip ahead a little quick.
$100,000.
Right now, here's the alternative. Now, let's say short term. So capital gains, if you're between 207,000 and 518,000, 35%. Not even a million. 35% at $500,000.
And that's less than a year.
And that's less than a year.
Wow.
Justin is taking notes. I like that. That's great. We're learning from ourselves right now.
It's insane. So if you want to go long term, so let's say you're married and filing jointly, right? It's pretty much double. It's still 0% interest up to $80,000 of gain. So if you made up to $80,000, you made $75,000, hold on to it for over a year, guess what? 0% interest. Now, if you're just under $500,000 as married filing jointly, it's 20%. All right. So long term, you're only getting charged 20% for just under $500,000, $496,000. Right. So, if you're going to do short term, and you're married and filing jointly, you're going to get charged 35% between 414,000 and 622,000. Not even a mil. 35%. I'm saying if you want to maximize your gains, basically, this is money that you have set aside and you don't really care about. Just leave it in there for a whole year and pay the minimum amount of tax. That's your win right there. Don't cash out your gains
until you have to. Basically, play the long.
Minimize your gains
until you absolutely have to take the money. Then
until you have to.
I think both pieces of information are important here because, like, I mean, as someone who has and still to a certain extent lives paycheck to paycheck, like, there might come a time when I have to, like, pull out some money, but knowing that I need to kick back 35% of that so that I can take care of my tax burden, you know what I mean, the next year. I'm not going to get audited or some crazy shit, right?
Right.
That's
Don't YOLO all your gains out. Don't YOLO all your gains out.
Because that's going to ruin it for you, you know?
Just bottom line is when you go to file taxes, how much did you realize out of your gains? That's the thing. So if you cashed out of, like, say, GME, right, and then you put all back into bingo, then you
say that word.
You didn't
have to bring it up.
We don't say that word around here, you asshole.
I'll bleep it out in post. I'll bleep it out in post.
Oh, my bad.
Can't believe it.
All right. Okay.
I can't believe it.
Diamond hands.
Sometimes diamond hands are a bad thing. Not gonna lie.
Oh, never diamond hand your calls.
Yeah, right.
Right
Oh
on.
man, shout out Star Bear.
Star Bear.
Inside joke. All right, guys. Henry, does that kind of sum up your?
I think that pretty much sums it up. So bottom line is, at the end of the year, before taxes, did you go over a year holding your gains, your stocks before you cashed out, or less than a year? So that's going to determine what your tax rate's going to be.
Okay.
So kind of keep that in mind.
Awesome. So I guess then we will shift over to my segment, the Jefford Effect. And
The Jefford Effect.
Someone want to explain what the Jefford Effect is?
I'm happy to
Mike.
because I made it up.
Yeah, you did, didn't you?
So it was all me. So back in the days before the Discord, I think I'd just become a mod actually on the subreddit. Every time we were all watching to see the price of bingo, whenever Jeff would come into the lounge, it would spike immediately. Like, he would just show up, be like, "Hey guys,
I know
boom, 10
I know
cents.
what's up.
Boom, it's up.
Yeah, exactly. So it was almost like he was buying $1 million in shares and then jumping into the Discord right afterwards just to flex. And so it was the Jefford Effect. And so we would always hope that he would show up just like right before power hour or that kind of thing. So that way it would just spike right afterwards. So
I think this is going to be a regular
In
segment.
a combination of rockets.
that's right. All rockets
Yes.
all day.
Rockets,
We're gonna do this
baby.
once a
Combination of sending the
once
rockets.
a week. So the Jefford
Send
Effect.
more
So
rockets.
what it is my stock pick for the week, and I'll just do a little DD quick summary of it, and then we'll move on. I'm going to read. There's a recent PR that they had released. It was on the 18th. I'm going to read the about at the bottom first. So first of all, the ticker IMNM. So IMNM is as in I make no money. Immunome is a biopharmaceutical company that utilizes its proprietary human memory B cell platform to discover and develop first-in-class antibody therapeutics that are designed to change the way diseases are treated. The company's initial focus is on developing therapeutics to treat oncology or cancers and infectious diseases, including COVID-19. Immunome's proprietary discovery engine identifies novel therapeutic antibodies that their targets by. Sorry, I'm going to read that sentence again. Immunome's proprietary discovery engine identifies novel therapeutic antibodies and their targets by leveraging the highly educated components of the immune system, which are memory B cells, from patients whose bodies have learned to fight off their disease. So the headline of this press release is Immunome discovers antibodies capable of neutralizing multiple COVID variants. including the South African variant in this pseudovirus testing. So this is actually a pretty big deal because they're looking at treating the disease with antibodies rather than doing the RNA, I think, vaccines, which are out. And the fact that they discovered an antibody that will neutralize the South African variant, which is apparently a very big deal because Moderna and Pfizer's vaccines are having a hard time neutralizing the antibodies, are neutralizing the diseases. And so this is actually a pretty big deal. And the news came out, it was around a $20 stock. And then after hours, I think it spiked up to $90. And then right now it's settled, it's up and down, and kind of settled out around $37, $38, $39. And I think once the news gets out that, what they do and what they've discovered, I think that it's going to have a pretty good little pop. I think this next week's going to maybe get up close to mid 50s, maybe 60. I don't know. I could be way off anyway. That's my pick. That's the IMNM.
So you're saying YOLO all my margin at this and then set a sell at 50 with like a minus 10% stop loss and just walk away? That's
guy gets it. Cool. Yeah, so that's my pick. And now I guess we're just going to kind of sign off. I don't know what else we had lined up. I think that's about it.
Well, so what's everybody's price target for bingo for the week before we all say bye?
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's under speculation. We can't do that here.
Let me get my crystal ball.
I'm going to say,
Go ahead.
you know what? I'm going to say 17, the same as I did last week. I think 17 is going to be end of week price.
I'm writing this down just so you guys know.
I'm going to be more down to earth based on what I'm thinking, what I've been seeing. I think it's going to be a solid 16, give or take, by the end of next week. But the following week with earnings coming up, we're going to look at least a minimum of 18, maybe a high of 25. So I call it 25 in 2 weeks.
All week of people, I say people, but of institutions being able to digest the Fireside and everything. So I'm going to say 1821 end of week, 1821.
That is really specific.
Man.
For Michael, 1821. I am going with 22 by Friday, end of day.
End of day, 22.
Wow.
22.
Wow.
We're looking
So
at
we
our
got
8th or so, aren't we?
You
8th or
guys
9th.
make me
8th or
look
9th.
like Star Bear.
We are coming up on earnings. Listen, guys,
Golly.
we're coming up on earnings. Okay.
That's going to build some hype.
We just shut out a shitload of short interest. The Fireside chat was last week. PR this week, I'm sure, is going to be amazing because it's amazing every week.
No doubt.
Yeah, this week, bingo to the moon.
Sweet.
Full bull,
Right on.
baby.
Full bull.
Well, this was a good time.
This was a great time. I'm so looking forward to this. I can't wait for next episode. This is
I
a
love this,
highlight.
guys.